Ladies and gentlemen, we are not live. See?
We're
I didn't
not
say
live.
live for once.
I heard it coming, and I
It
was
didn't
like,
come.
nah. He's got that. He's got it in the skid steer already.
It's
Ready
loaded
to
up.
go.
But yeah, how was your I guess we just started. How was your Christmas and New Year's, man?
Christmas and New Year's was great. That break is always a good and welcome one.
Yeah, dude.
So I added a PS5 to my arsenal of
Yeah,
gaming
same.
and broke my game capture card. So
Oh
that was
yeah.
also great. Yeah.
I did too, but I was able to kind of fix it. But yours, I think the card
Yeah,
is actually
I
broken.
I don't so I don't know if it's the capture device or if it's the fact that I'm on Windows 11 now. Maybe like it's one or
Ooh,
the other, and I
man.
don't really know. Yeah, I don't. Well, you're gonna have to.
Truly
There's
the Vita
a
of
couple.
our generation. I don't actually know. I don't have it. I've been just every time it asks me to upgrade, I'm like,
It's like
nah.
no thanks, cancel. It's not so bad, but I mean, yeah, obviously this is a side product of
What
that.
was the
So
one that tried to turn Windows into a fucking tablet?
that was Windows 8. Yeah,
Yeah.
Windows 8, not great.
So bad they skipped to 9.
I mean, stuff happens. It is what it is. But no, the break was good. Got a lot of R&R, played a lot of games, did a lot of things. It was good. How about you?
Yeah, both the same. Good
I
time.
didn't do a lot of traveling. That was good.
Oh,
I,
I
I
did a lot
wasn't
of
I wasn't
traveling.
on the road a lot, and that was really good about this year.
I hate it. That's the worst part.
It
But
is the worst part.
yeah, we did it. It's fine. But overall, I mean, we did it. We planned it out. So we did all the traveling during the week before. So then, like, the days that I actually had days off, I actually got to do stuff that I wanted to do.
Right.
So that worked out
It's good. That's what
actually
you're
pretty
looking for.
well. But yeah, got a PS5 as well. I don't know if I had one when we did the best
You
of
just had it.
2025.
You
Okay.
just because you were just getting kicked up with Dragon Quest 3. That was like you were
Right,
like right
okay.
on the precipice
Which
of
was
it.
awesome, by the
It
way.
was great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing that one a lot.
Yeah. So today's show, we're gonna talk about the Switch 2, which was just revealed, kind of.
Brand new.
And then we're gonna talk about the Crisis Core, because you just played Crisis Core for the first
Yeah, I
time,
did. Yeah, I played the
and
remake.
you've been like,
What is it called? Reunion?
I don't even know what it's
It's
called.
called Reunion.
Oh,
Crisis Core Reunion.
oh, okay. But yeah, and then we're gonna swing into our handhelds kind of
Yeah,
year,
baby.
talking about growing up with the Game Boy and Game Boy Color. So stay tuned for that, baby.
So many double A's went in the garbage those years. So
Oh
many
yeah,
double A's. Like
yeah, dude,
a
that's
ridiculous
true.
amount of double A's.
It ate and shit double A's,
Oh
those
yeah,
bad
yeah,
boys.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, let's start with the Switch 2 was
Hmm.
announced. I did a video of it. It'll be up. It will have been up on Monday. But what are your thoughts on the Switch 2 announcement
I like
video?
the Switch too. It's time. I've been saying this actually for a little while. It is time for Nintendo to retire out the Switch,
Yeah,
which is sad. I really, really like the Switch,
the best
and
Nintendo console, bar none.
hands down. I
Yeah,
mean that one's definitely number one in my books, right?
yeah,
It's got everything that you need. The only thing that it didn't have was like a lot of power, but to be perfectly frank, it did really well with what it had. Considering that it's almost at its 10-year cycle, right? Like it
yeah,
launched in 2017. So, I mean, like,
yeah,
we got our money's worth out of that, in my opinion, right? And it's
yeah,
not going anywhere either,
yeah.
because with the Switch 2, they took a page out of the PS5's book and were like, how about you can just keep playing your Switch 1 games on the Switch 2? You
That's
just
how all consoles
keep going.
should have
It
been
should
since
be.
the PS2.
Oh,
Honestly,
100%.
yeah,
Yeah. Them taking out backwards compatibility was one of the dumbest things that they could do,
yeah.
right? So I'm stoked for that. I like that. We've been having a lot of talks in the Discord about it. The one thing that I'm concerned about with the Switch 2, we can talk about like the specifics of it, but my primary concern with the Switch 2 is that there's not going to be enough space on the console for the
Oh,
games.
storage. I didn't even think of
Yeah,
that.
because as we enter into there, it's basically I've been told it's like going to be equivalent to like PS4 quality
Yeah,
games, like that
that's what
kind of
I.
level.
Yeah.
And so as we entered into that generation of games were anywhere between 35 to 65 gigs
Gigs. Yeah.
to install it to the device, right? I mean, I know that they're pretty hefty for physical, so that's great. But if you have less than a terabyte of storage on that device,
Yeah, you're
you're
boned.
probably going to have a rough time. 512, if it comes with 512, I think that's manageable because then you can slap a 512 SD card into it
True.
to make up a terabyte, and then you probably be okay. But I'm hoping that's where it is. I would say it's probably likely they're going to ship it with 256,
Think it'll be a
and then
solid state?
no, well, so it'll be solid state, but it'll be built onto the motherboard like the Switch was, right? It's
Mm,
not removable or replaceable. It's just there, and then
yeah,
they give you in the Switch One, there's an expansion slot for an SD card,
yeah. They'll have
and
that,
so
something like
they'll
that.
have something like that. The only problem is though is that when you reach those 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte SD cards, you're talking a couple hundy
Yeah, they're
for that,
expensive. Yeah.
which is not super great. So,
No.
with it being portable, I like to have a good mix of physical and digital games. So that's my
Same.
one like thing that I'm watching because there's no data about like the storage. It's very, very, very new.
Yeah.
But other than that, everything else that I've seen about it, I'm loving. I'm loving what I'm seeing. It's looking good.
I didn't even think about the storage aspect when I was like
Yeah,
talking about it, but that's definitely a big concern.
yeah.
My biggest concern is that the controller for the Switch like is fucking dog
The
shit.
Joy-Cons.
Dude, it's awful. And they just basically kept it. And
Yeah.
it's like,
So, so somebody floated an idea to me. We're all super preliminary, but someone floated an idea to me and and said, "Wouldn't it be cool if the Pro controller works with the Switch too?" Because there's no real good reason why it wouldn't.
yeah, I mean, I don't even have that.
The Pro controller is one of the best. It is hands down the best Nintendo controller I've ever used. And I gotta say, before I used the PS5 controller, I would have told you is probably my favorite controller of all time.
Oh, really?
Because it is so good. It is very well built. It is good size. The buttons are in a good spot. The joysticks are really responsive. They have good spring back. It's wireless. It's got a long battery life. It's got motion controls in it. It is like across the board, really, really, really good. And so I'm hoping that they allow you to use that same Pro controller, or at least if they give you a Switch 2 Pro controller as an option. I mean, that's
It's
acceptable, but it would
Nintendo,
be
so they're
way
gonna do that.
100%.
They want
But
to
can
just
you imagine if
sell
they
you
were like,
double.
if they're like, you're gonna have to get new Joy-Cons, but this is you can reuse your Switch Pro
That
controller.
would be nice
I'd love it.
for
I'd be
people
all
that
in on
have
that.
it. The Switch's controllers or control the Switch's
The
Joy-Cons
Joy-Cons, yeah,
are so
not a big fan.
bad that it
I don't
is
like them.
literally I have like 20 consoles. It is the only console I own that I use a third party controller for. Primary. This is my primary Switch controller right here.
I believe it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They're
I
fucking
mean, it's
they
the
feel like
Joy-Cons
dollar
not
store
great.
fidget toys. That's
Yeah, they're
literally what
really
they
not
feel
great.
like.
Now, with that being said, the new Switch Joy-Cons do look larger,
Yeah.
and they do look a little bit better built. I like that they're magnetic, but I'm also a little worried
Oh,
about
it's
them being
magnetic. That's how they.
Magnetic, yeah, they're not on
Oh,
rails
it
anymore.
looked like it like clipped in somehow. I was like,
No,
that's
so
gonna
it's
wear out, bro.
it's magnetic, so it snaps in on the sides.
Oh, that might
But
be
I'm
nice.
I'm just I'm obviously they'll have some kind of stabilization thing, but I'm worried like if you grab it the wrong way that the Joy-Cons disconnect and the whole
Well,
thing falls apart.
exactly. Yeah,
Right?
I have
Like,
a lot of concerns with it, but
there's a lot, yeah. But
it's
I don't really use I don't use the Joy-Cons at all, right?
no
Like my
same.
kids use the Joy-Cons because they play Just Dance, and you need a
Just
Joy-Con to do your
dance.
Just Dance stuff on there.
Yeah.
But I mean, when I'm playing a Switch game, like a proper Switch game, I'm either playing it in handheld mode with the Joy-Cons on the thing, on
Sides.
the tablet,
Yeah.
or if it's on docked, I'm using my Pro controller, and the Pro controller is
Right.
just so good, dude. It's so good.
I think one thing that I would like to see, and I don't even know if this is like a thing, is I would have liked to see, and maybe it is a thing. I'd like to see hardware in the dock so that it adds some juice to it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So
Sure.
like I know that the console itself, which is the tablet
Yeah.
essentially,
It's cell
has
phone powered kind of
has
thing.
hardware in it that changes when it is docked, right? It'll
Right.
put out more. But I would have liked to have seen the dock actually have some hardware in there to
Yeah.
add to that. I think that's
Like a
something.
boost, like RAM boost or something like that.
RAM, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
that would
think
be really cool. I don't think it was on the official Nintendo reveal, but I've seen a lot of like there's been a lot of stuff floating around. So I mean, take everything we're saying with a grain of
Mhm.
salt too, right? But I'm pretty sure they put a Ethernet jack on the back of the Switch
Ooh, that'd be
dock this
nice.
time.
Because it
Oh
sucked
man,
having to use wireless. I mean,
dude,
Nintendo's
you
internet
see,
is shit as it is, and
it's
then to
already
have to use
bad.
it on wireless, yeah.
Dude, the Wi-Fi on that device, like when I put my PS4 and my PS5 in the room that I'm in right now, and I get pretty close to full bars. I get good high speed. I
Yeah.
bring that stupid Switch in here. Sometimes it's like, nah, you don't have internet. Like it's
Yeah.
I don't know where the
Dude,
internet
well,
went.
yeah, when we would play like on the Nintendo Switch Online, we couldn't even play like an NES
So
game
bad.
without it just bouncing.
Yeah,
The
we're trying to
ping
play
was
River
just
City
bouncing.
Ransom, and we just literally we gave up. We're like,
Yeah.
okay, apparently we're not doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. So that is something I'd like to see them fix
Yeah.
going forward. They got to get their online service
They
sorted
know
out.
the
That is
Nintendo
an issue.
knows the internet exists now, so it's a matter of
That's right.
time before
Yeah,
they
that's
fix
right.
it.
Exactly.
One thing though that like as much as I love the Switch, and the Switch is, I got to do like a top 10 consoles or consoles I own ranked video, I think. But one thing that does set the Switch back from maybe some other Nintendo consoles is and like I agree with you. The Switch is bar none the best Nintendo
Hands
console of all
down.
time.
Oh yeah, there's a pretty good gap between the Switch and then like second in line.
Yeah,
For me, second
the
in line would
NES
be
is the
Super
second in
Nintendo.
line for me.
You said it was the NES. The only so in my opinion, they're like real close. Like if it's like Switch, SNES, NES, like it's like
Yeah,
like that,
yeah,
right?
same.
But
SNES and NES.
the
Really.
reason why for me the SNES sneaks out is because I had more gaming with the SNES than I did with the NES, and I think you were reversed. I think
Oh
you were the
yeah,
other way around.
I barely
Right?
played the Super NES.
So I mean, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I would say they're almost interchangeable at that point,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
They're
pretty
really
even.
really good, but the Switch is like up
Yeah,
here,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah. But
and then after the NES, there's a good sized gap too before you get
yeah,
to
and then even then, would it be like the Wii or the GameCube? You'd have to
I
go Wii.
I would
think.
do Wii then GameCube, but again very close.
Yeah.
Very
Well, the
like
Wii can
very
play
close.
GameCube games too, so that
And
gives it an
that's
edge.
why in my opinion the
Yeah.
Wii's better because it is a GameCube
Yeah.
plus, right?
But
Not to mention it's a literal hardware GameCube. It's got the hardware ports
yeah,
on the damn
yeah, it's
Wii
not
for you
emulating
just to
it.
play
Yeah.
it that way. So yeah.
But one thing that I think the Switch kind of dropped the ball on, and again, the Switch is fucking good. I'm not saying it's
It's
not.
good. It's good.
But
Don't come at us.
not having the virtual console carryover
Yes.
between generations, because
Yeah,
like they put up like Tiki Taki's Fun Zone. It's like, dude, put
Yeah.
on fucking all these massive games that you have.
Give me all the Mega Man
Give me
games.
all the Mega Man games. Give me
Yeah.
all the fuck. I don't even like Metroid. Give me all the Metroid games.
Yeah.
Give me fucking
Yeah.
all the Final Fantasy games. All the
Oh,
Dragon
yeah.
Quest games.
Yeah.
Give that to me. Like, they have
Hands
all this
down.
stuff at their disposal, and they're like, Tiki Tak Micmac 7. Like,
Tiki Tak Micmac 7 was a great game.
it
Shut your
was.
mouth.
It was pretty good. It's
No, you
underrated.
know what? I completely agree. When they shut down the previous store, the Wii Shop, right? The virtual console and the Wii Shop, when they shut that down and didn't carry that forward to the E Shop,
Yeah.
that sucked. That
Dude,
was just
even
Nintendo-
if like, here's the thing, like, I keep saying like PlayStation did everything better, blah blah blah, but
Sure.
PlayStation, you still had up until like the PS4 to 5,
yeah,
you still had to like buy it. Like, if I had it on the PS2, or sorry, the well, obviously the PS2, but if I had it on the
Yeah.
PS3 and it showed up as like a HD remaster or whatever, or an upscaled version on the PS4, I still had to rebuy it. I don't even care. Let me rebuy it at the very least. Let
at the
me
bare minimum.
Yes.
Yeah, don't just hide it from the world.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, right? Well, I mean that gives rise to emulation and piracy. I would
Absolutely.
rather play the original game, but if you're going to take away all of my options to play it, people are going to find a way to do it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
and you don't want to go down that road. We're not condoning that, and I
am. Fuck
original
it.
hardware. Original hardware and software is the best way to enjoy those systems.
I don't
right?
even know anymore, because like the PlayStation 2.
Well,
dude, I love the
minus
PS2.
the scalping market and the current state of used games. In
Oh
this
yeah,
day.
that too. But I'm talking performance. Like, The
Sure.
PS2, I think it's like
It does like the
PCSX2.
upscale or whatever.
Dude, it looks like a PS3, PS4 game.
Yeah.
Like when you
Oh, yeah,
when you
they look
play
good.
some of these PS2 games, it's incredible what they can do. Dolphin for the Wii and the GameCube, like, is absolutely incredible. Redream for the Dreamcast, like, oh my god, they make these games that came out in like that arcadey PS2 era of gaming and make it look like they belong on modern consoles. Like, they
That's
clean them
awesome.
up so nicely. Dude, Dragon Quest 9 is like the ugliest fucking game on the DS because like the DS really had like ugly 3D graphics.
It was rough.
Yeah,
It was rough.
it
Yep.
was like, yeah, everything was pokey kind of. Like, it was
It was
weird.
pokey, and there was like the screen. There wasn't screen tearing, but it was like really. The frame rate was not clean.
Yeah, it was very
didn't
weird.
feel good. Yeah.
But you play me and Fates. It was a couple
Like
years ago.
speckled.
We did Dragon Quest 9
Yep.
co-op, and obviously when we were both playing, we had to run it on like system settings. But when I would play like by myself, I could make that look like a Switch game. Like, it was like fucking cleaned up on the Melon
For
DS.
sure.
Like, it was
For
crazy.
sure.
And like, that's one of the ugliest. I love Dragon Quest 9, don't get me wrong, but it's one of the ugliest DS games of all time, and it cleans up that good.
It looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have a whole lot of experience with any of that kind of stuff, but I mean that is very true. The thing is that, like I said, that gives it rise is the fact that Nintendo's like,
Hide
no,
everything.
you can't buy that game anymore. It's discontinued. No, you can't have a virtual copy of it. Even though a virtual copy existed on a previous system,
Yeah.
you can't have it on this one. It's a lot of fake scarcity. I don't like it. Like,
Yeah.
it would have been a lot. Obviously, they want to make money. I get that. Okay, everyone, I get it. But it would have been so much cooler if they would.
Dude, if they just
pulled
dropped
forward
all those games
everything they had already.
immediately, every
What's the problem?
single person that owns a Switch would have the Switch Online.
Yeah, guaranteed.
So I don't even know why they're not doing it. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can say they want to make money, but they would make more money if
They would
did it.
make more. Yeah. Yeah. It was like when they were talking about putting Pokemon Stadium on the Nintendo Store or whatever it is, the online service, that they were going to also put on Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow, Green,
Ooh, that'd be
Red,
nice.
right? Because you could bring your pokes from those games
Right
into Stadium
the
and play.
stadium.
They brought in Stadium, but they didn't bring any of the Pokemon games in. So what you got was like the crap version of Stadium.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you ever played Stadium without uploading your own Pokemon to it, but it's
Yeah.
not great. It's a
Yeah.
very bad experience.
The
It's playable. It's just
I
nowhere
liked
near
Stadium
the
too
best of it.
because it had so many
too.
really good mini games in it,
Oh,
and I
yeah,
would just
there was
play
a
like the
lot.
mini games and stuff.
Yeah, it was good. It was all good.
But yeah, that is kind of our thoughts on
Switch
the
2 is
Switch
good.
2. And
I like the color scheme. A lot of people are crapping on it that they just kind of inverted the blue and the red
Right.
Joy-Cons and made them black. I like that look. I think it looks way better than the
Oh
original.
yeah, it doesn't look like a toy.
It
It,
looks
looks like they're
so
taking it
sleek.
seriously.
Yeah, it looks really, really nice. So I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of people who are hating, like, oh, they just changed the color and charge you $500. It's more powerful. It's bigger. The screen's brighter. It's gonna play games that aren't going to die. Like, I look at like how Pokemon Scarlet Violet played,
Just
and people
chugging.
who like had a hacked Switch were able to bring the frame rate up just by adding additional resources to it. It's like, okay, this is
Yeah.
why you need a new system.
This
It's
is
getting
that's
choked up.
another thing that I'd like to see, and I don't know if it's gonna be a thing. Is because like the PS5 does this for the PS4, but
Yep.
when you play that
The old
game
games.
in the Switch 2, is it gonna run
Are they
as
gonna
well
work
as it
better?
does on like an emulator?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope with that additional resources
would be
that
cool.
they do, but it's something I'm going to check. I got to tell you, I don't buy consoles day one, and I'm seriously considering this one.
Really?
I'm
No,
seriously
not
considering
me.
this
They
one.
haven't really announced like any games or anything, so
That'll be the decision maker for me, but I got to tell you, with the amount of mileage that my Switch has gotten, I got to
Yeah.
tell you, I'm definitely interested. So
yeah. I'm gonna wait till maybe something big comes out on it that I can't get on my PS5 already. But the another thing is the price point's gonna be fair because it's an Nintendo console.
yeah.
So.
That I'm good with. I'm good with all that.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much all I really had to say about that. Another thing I just wanted to quickly mention was the same people when the Wii came out or the Switch or the Wii U came out. that were like, the GameCube was actually awesome,
Oh,
are now
yeah.
doing that with the Wii U of all
Oh,
fucking
dude,
things.
I don't know. The Wii U is such a bad console.
It's
It is such
so
a garbage
bad, dude.
console. I've said it multiple times before that the Wii U, I bought a Wii U, right? Because my brothers were playing. They're like, "You got to get this thing. It's so cool. It comes with a
Yeah.
tablet and blah blah blah." Mario Kart 8, that was a lot of fun on the Wii U. So there was games on the Wii U that were fun to play. But that console was so bad that when they announced the Switch, I was like, I'm never buying another Nintendo console
Yeah.
again. They
That's
pulled
been
the
me
wool
since
over
the
my
Wii.
eyes on this one. Right? Like it was so bad. And when you play the Wii U and go to the Switch, you're like, "Oh, I see what they were doing here. They were making
Making
money
you pay for the prototype.
to pay for the prototype
Yeah.
for the friggin' Switch." Yeah, not a big fan. I don't know how somebody can honestly come to the defense of the Wii U strictly on the console itself. I know the Wii U is turned into like an emulation machine,
Yeah, yeah.
and if people have been finding additional uses for it. That's not what I mean,
Yeah.
because you can do that with a computer, right?
Yeah.
What I mean is to say the Wii U, the most miserable console in all of Nintendo's history. I think it's the worst selling console they ever put out, is it not?
Oh yeah.
Like
It's
like,
gotta be. Well,
I
other
don't
than maybe
even-
the Virtual Boy, but we pretend that doesn't
I don't
exist.
know if you can count that. So
To me, the
discounting
Virtual Boy is like a
Boy-
weird, like kind of. I
It's a
consider it a
gimmick.
handheld, I guess.
Yeah,
I
it's like a
don't know.
gimmick, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. So, discounting the Virtual Boy, then it would be the worst selling console that they ever
Yeah.
put out.
I always forget about the Virtual Boy.
And like to sit here and be like, "Oh, the Wii U was a good console." It's like, what? Are you part goldfish? Like,
Yeah.
did you hit your head and like forget what happened in the last 20 years?
But I
or
think
something?
there's two factors there. You've got nostalgia, rose tinted glasses, right?
For the Wii U though.
I know, but I'm just saying that's one part of it. And then the other part, I think, is like looking back at the GameCube, for example, because the GameCube
Sure.
does have some good games, right?
Yes.
But saying that now, when I could buy a GameCube for $20, as opposed
yeah.
to when the GameCube came out and it was like like, you know what I mean, like hundreds of dollars. It's easy to say a console wasn't as bad when you're not paying full price for that console.
Absolutely.
I think that's a big part of it.
Absolutely. I think that's part of it too. The thing is that to me, like, even get someone to list you their favorite Wii U games, right?
Yeah.
Like they're gonna give you the Marios and the Zeldas, right? They're gonna give you those and say, okay, now that those are off the table, tell me your next favorite games. For the GameCube, they had a bunch, right? There was a ton of really
there was a
good
lot of
GameCube
like they had a lot of really good like Star Wars
Oh
Rogue
yeah,
Squadron
there was some
games.
really good stuff, and it was specific for the GameCube. It wasn't
Yeah.
just like ports, right?
Yeah.
I looked up a list. I don't know. I just found some random best 25 games for the Wii U. Okay, you want to hear this?
Yeah.
Lego City Undercover port. The Wonderful 101. That was a good game. That one was for the Wii U. That was a good game. Zombie U. Terrible game, but at least it's a Wii U specific. Okay, now here
Not
we go.
anymore, it
Okay?
isn't.
Well, it was at the time. It
I
was
know,
at-
I know. It was for years.
Deus Ex.
Which is on
Donkey
everything.
Kong Country Tropical Freeze. I'm going to skip a couple here. Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. New Super Mario Bros. U. Okay, good. The NES Remix Pack, which is just a pack, like
was
a
one of
collection
the top
Nintendo
like
games.
10.
Yeah, that's number 16 on this list out of
Oh.
25. Twilight Princess HD, which was a GameCube. They did the same thing with
The Wii.
Yeah, with the Breath of the Wild, right?
Yeah.
They brought Twilight Princess up to the Wii U from the Wii. It was also a GameCube game.
Yeah.
Splatoon, fantastic game. That one was on the Wii U. Great, right?
Yeah.
It would be one of the 5 I think that I would have told you is a Wii U great game. Rayman Legends, Nintendo Land, Shovel Knight,
Nintendo Land. No.
Mario Maker, right? Bayonetta 2. Like all of these games are like they're not when you say that game you don't think Wii U, right?
No,
like
that's
not
true.
so for them to be in the top 25, and I get this is one person's opinions, right?
Yeah.
But go and look at the top lists out there.
Yeah.
And that NES Remix is in the top like 15 of every single one of them. It's like they're just Nintendo games, you guys. If that's the best your system
That's
has
like if
to
you listed
offer-
the top 10 Wii games and you just listed a bunch of games from the Virtual Console.
Oh yeah. You bet. Like, I mean, it's, I don't
My
know.
favorite
So
Wii game was Castlevania Bloodlines.
I don't know. I look at those lists, and it's this was one, but many of them have the exact same thing,
Yeah.
right? It's because this system didn't have a lot of games. It was a commercial failure for the Nintendo. And honestly, the system as a whole is just awful. I was saying in our Discord that it requires you to have that stupid tablet
Yeah.
to use the system. You need that tablet
And
to
it's a
access
beast,
different
that
parts.
tablet.
Well, if you break that tablet, it's done. The
Yeah.
console's toast. It's dead, son. Like, in order to access the console settings, you need to use the tablet. You
Yeah.
need to use the tablet to get into everything. I don't know.
Brutal.
It is
Terrible
what it
idea.
is. Hey, if you love the Wii U, then that's great. I'm glad that you found a console. But in my opinion, you're in the minority there. Because
Oh,
that,
yeah.
that was a
It's
terrible
not
console.
even an opinion. You're
It was
definitely in the
terrible.
minority there.
That is hands down, probably in my opinion, the worst Nintendo console of all time.
Yeah.
Discounting the virtual console, or the Virtual Boy, but I don't think that even counts.
Yeah.
That was ridiculous.
I always consider the Virtual Boy like a handheld almost.
It felt more like a Game Boy than it did like
Yeah.
a console, but I get it. If it lands in the realm of consoles, that is the worst. But taking out the obvious, it's like saying, like Superman 64 is a bad Nintendo 64 game. Yeah, it is. Okay,
Yeah.
now what's the next worst?
Yeah.
Let's talk real games, because nobody says anything about that one being a good game.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, let's swing on in to Crisis Core. So Crisis Core originally came out on the PSP. I'm gonna say
PSP, 2009.
2009,
2009.
and that's over 10 years after Final Fantasy
It is.
VII came out. And
Yep.
you're a huge Final Fantasy VII
Love
guy.
it.
I'm not the biggest Final Fantasy VII guy, but I just remember when
You're coming around compared to where you were.
Yeah. But when I first played Crisis, I think Crisis Core is a big part of why though,
Mm-hmm.
because when Crisis Core came out, I was like, well, I'll give this a shot, right?
Yeah.
And because I hacked my PSP, so I had all these good games, and Crisis Core. If you look at the list of top 10 PSP games, Crisis Core is in there.
I believe it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so I was
it was a system seller, right?
yeah, it really
And I
was
think
early,
they
especially
had a
early
Crisis
on.
Core PSP bundle, if I'm not
They
mistaken.
probably did, yeah.
I think they did.
For me, I think the reason I bought my PSP, if I remember correctly, was Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. So I got it super
Oh, okay.
late.
Yeah.
But that's why when I got it and then I hacked it and I was like, I want to play all the PSP games that I kind of missed out on, right?
Right.
But Crisis Core was one of the first top recommended games on the PSP. So I
Sure.
played it, and it's very different gameplay wise. But to me, it cuts out all the things I didn't like about Final Fantasy VII, and kept the things I did like. I liked the world of Final Fantasy VII.
Okay.
Yeah, I liked.
Yeah, the idea of it.
Yeah, I liked some of the characters, and you get to see the backgrounds of those characters. And then not only that, but the characters that I didn't like or didn't resonate with, I feel like it gave me a different perspective of those characters, and then I
Sure.
kind of like them. I don't like Cloud as a character, but I
Right.
really like Cloud in Crisis Core.
Right. Yeah, because he's just was looking up to
Just
he
a
was
young
like everybody
guy.
else in the world, looking at Soldier as I want to be one of them, because
Yeah,
then
and he's
people
just-
will respect me because I'll be awesome then.
Yeah,
right?
and he's just a young guy. He's just
Yeah.
I don't know.
16-year-old kid kind of thing.
Yeah, I would love, and this would be. I don't think they'll ever do it, but maybe because they do to
At this
beat,
point, I don't know if
they,
I want them
They
to.
do to beat the dead horse that is Final Fantasy VII.
Oh yeah.
I would like a game that takes place at the same time as Crisis Core, but you play as young Cloud.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I
infant-
really like it.
infantryman.
Didn't he use a tonfa? He doesn't even use
Yep.
a sword, right? He's got a
Yeah.
little tonfa.
Yeah, he's got Tonfa
Dude.
and a gun.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But I want to know because I was telling you since I played it, how
been
much
saying
I
for a
liked
long
it.
time,
I
yeah.
like it more than Final Fantasy VII. Honestly, there's
Yeah.
definitely some dumb shit in there. I don't like the
There is.
Genesis stuff and
Genesis
whatever.
was not cool.
But I want to know because I told you how much I liked Crisis
Yeah.
Core. Despite not really liking 7, and you love 7, and most
Yep.
people that love 7 aren't a fan of. Not that they're not a fan of Crisis Core, but they're not
Just
a fan.
overly critical of it.
Yeah, that would be a better way of putting
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Yeah, I have to correct myself because I just looked it up. 2007 it came
Oh,
out.
okay.
So
So it was
2007,
exactly 10 years after.
and yeah, it was for Final Fantasy VII's 10th anniversary. They also released at the same time a special edition bundle of a silver colored PSP Lite, PSP Slim and Lite with the 10th anniversary insignia on the back.
Oh,
So,
okay.
and they limited the bundle to 77,777 units.
That's
So,
hilarious. Did they
North America released in 2008. So,
did they release Advent Children first or Crisis Core?
that's a good
That's a
question,
fucking
actually.
I think Advent Children was first, but I don't know. They
Do you
would have been
remember
around the same time.
Do you remember watching Advent Children and at the end of the movie being like, "What the hell did I just
Dude,
watch?"
I've never made it through Advent Children without falling asleep. I can't. It's like,
Advent Children was 2005.
oh, okay.
So it was 3 years before.
So the
Um,
original one of the things you picked up on with this remake, by the way, was the
Yep.
voice, and a lot of people, especially those that did play Crisis Core when it first came out on the PSP,
Right.
is people didn't like the new voice actors
The voice acting not great.
because
no.
they changed the voice actors to match up with the remake, and
remake.
rebirth or whatever voice
I
actors.
get it.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
get it. They want to have continuity, and I get that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I kind of jumped in and I changed course. So
No,
we'll
no
we'll
problem.
pin voice actors for a quick moment. As far as it goes for Crisis Core and my thoughts on it, I really enjoyed it. I can see how people are overly critical. People take Final Fantasy VII so personally.
Yeah.
Because for the vast majority of people, it was the very first JRPG they ever played.
Yeah.
Right? People didn't know what JRPGs were until they got a copy of Final Fantasy VII, and then that's what's got them into JRPGs
Yeah.
as a whole. And they moved on from there. So people take it so personally about Final Fantasy VII. I used to be this way too, a long time ago. But I think the more JRPGs that I play, the more I'm like, you know what? Final Fantasy VII in a bubble is really good. But when you look at all of these other games that exist,
Yeah.
it's not the best.
Yeah.
It's good. It's not the best.
Yeah.
It's a really good entry level JRPG
Yeah.
because it just kind of just gets you into it. You understand the concept of selecting moves and da 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 da. For the time anyway, 1997, right?
Yeah.
Um, I loved the fact that they had all of these things. So you can have played Final Fantasy VII and then you play Crisis Core and you can draw the lines to where you are in the story.
Yeah.
Because you know how it's going to end, right?
Yeah.
In Final Fantasy VII, they tell you how Zack Fair's story ends.
Yeah.
And so you know the ending of it, but every time I was like, "Oh, this is it. This is the end of the game."
Yeah.
Another-
They do a good job, man, of
Right? They
making
did
it
a
feel
really good
fresh
job. Yeah, they
and
were-
making it hurt because
Yeah,
you
there
know
was-
it's coming.
You know,
You
and the
know it's
whole time-
coming, and they do everything to make it
Yeah.
hurt.
And when it does come along, you're like the whole time you're just like, no, I can win this, we can do it. It was
So
phenomenal.
this morning, because it was literally last night that you finished it, right?
Last night I finished. Yeah.
So
I
this
watched
morning
Separate
I
Crowds.
went back and I watched just the end to see, because I wanted to refresh myself on the ending, because I
Sure,
remember
sure.
they did it really well, but I didn't
They did
remember
very
how
good,
they did
yeah.
it. And then I wanted to see your reaction because it was your first time, and I knew your reaction was gonna be like, because you're ready. You think you're ready for it.
Oh yeah,
You do
yeah.
because you know what's gonna
'Cause
happen.
you're like, I know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
You're like, oh well, here it is what like you would think, right, before
yeah.
actually getting to it.
Yeah.
And then, dude, I remember watching you, and then it like starts the cutscene, and just like the look on your face, you're like, well, this is it. And then all of a sudden, you're like, oh, they're making me do this fight.
They're making me play it.
Yeah, dude.
I thought I was just gonna sit and watch.
Yes.
Yeah, I absolutely thought I was just gonna watch the video of Zach getting.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't played it. This is your moment to skip ahead if you want to preserve the ending. You should already know the ending. It's been just about 30 years now.
Yeah.
But fair, okay?
Yeah.
Here's your warning. So I was expecting to get a cutscene of like the soundtrack playing, angel wings showing up of like Angeal in the distance as Zach's just like douche, 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 douche.
Just
The way
getting
that it works
blown away.
in Final Fantasy 7, the way it works is he strolls out there and he's like, well, I guess this is it. And then it's just rat-tat-tat-tat-tat from like
Yeah.
100 freaking soldiers. No, they throw you in there and it's like, oh shit, maybe I've got a chance to win this.
Yeah,
like,
I
oh,
saw
yeah, no.
glimmers of like fucking dude. When I was watching you play, I saw like little glimpses of hope.
Yeah.
And then like all of a sudden, you start, dude. The way they did the DMW,
the DMW starts slowly disappearing,
and
all the
like
people
glitching,
disappear
right?
off
Like
of it.
people
Yeah.
start like it'll like
Yeah.
spasm out and stuff,
Yeah.
and people start like you're like it's like all his life is flashing before his eyes, right?
Yeah,
and then it
exactly.
starts like setting in, and it just gets sadder and sadder.
Oh,
and
it's getting
like,
worse,
dude.
Yeah. Until the very last bit. I thought the fight was over, and I was like, "This is it." And he's like all bloodied and just destroyed. He's like dragging his sword behind him, and it makes you play that last bit.
Yeah,
There's three
dude.
soldiers that you're like throw everything you got. It's like, ugh. I was like, I can take at least one more down. No, they keep backing up. They back up every time you swing and shoot at you more, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was very, very good. I loved all of that.
Yeah.
The two gripes I had about the game, and in my opinion, they are not enough to make you not want to play. If you're someone
Yeah.
who liked Final Fantasy VII, and truth be
Or
told, if you're
don't-
someone
or
who just
didn't.
likes, if you like action RPGs,
Yeah.
the combat system was very good.
It is good.
I know a lot of people say that it's not good, and I don't know why. It was super fluid. Maybe they didn't like it on the PSP because it would have had to have been miserable with that joystick.
The only thing, yeah, it plays better on the remake because
For sure.
I
With-
can't
with
remember
two
if it's the
sticks, I could move
camera.
the camera around.
Yeah, I can't remember if it's the camera or the targeting, but one of them isn't in like the PSP
Right.
version really.
Yeah, I gotta say, I barely used the target. I kept forgetting about the targeting, right? Because
Yeah.
like I would just
I just
be
use
like,
it on like big bosses,
blow
like
it.
Behemoth.
that makes sense. Well,
and-
to keep you locked in
Yeah.
on it, right? Makes total sense.
But I think
yeah.
the reason for me and you, the reason that as an action RPG it's great is because you don't need to remember combos.
No,
You know what I
no,
mean?
You can just button mash to your heart's content,
And then you like
And-
hotkey your special moves, basically.
That's right. It was on the PS5. It was hold L1, and then it was all the face buttons plus L2 R2.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to cast a spell or whatever like that, and then I didn't like using L2 as a spell because it was a little weird to hit that button while holding L1. So I slotted in, because you use materia in the game, I slotted in HP plus, and then it just like kills the slot off, so you don't have
Yeah.
to worry about it. So then basically I'd hold L1, triangle, square, circle, cross, or R1, R2. And
Yeah.
honestly, like it was just so fluid. And you hammer on square, you do your attacks, you square and cross at the same time to you to enter Buster Sword mode. Like it was just like it was very, very well done. I
Yeah.
liked the combat. It felt super fluid. The two gripes that I had about it, the voiceovers,
Yeah.
a lot of them, some of them were okay, but a lot of them were really, really
I
bad.
don't know if it was like they changed the vocal direction, like the like, or what it was, because these aren't terrible voice actors.
No,
It just sounds
no.
like they literally got the script right now and are reading it off the script
And that's
at times.
there was I sent a video to our group. It was like, well, I guess I got all of them. It was
Yeah.
just like it was just the way that it was read.
Because
and
these
I
are
mean,
the
like,
same guys that are in,
Yeah.
for the most part, in
Right.
Rebirth, and they didn't sound the voice
No.
acting, if anything, is a high
No,
point in Rebirth.
There was
or
a
remake.
lot of, but there was a lot of like Cloud's voice actor was great through the whole thing. There's a few points where like he really shows some emotion.
Yeah.
Right, like where he finally wakes up and Zach's dead and he's like, nah.
Yeah.
And he like
Yeah.
lets out- that was very, very good. Angeal's voice actor also very good.
Yeah.
Right. But
But I don't know if they replaced him because he didn't. I don't
I
think he
have no
shows
idea.
up in remake or Rebirth. Right?
no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think Angeal was specific to Crisis Core
Yeah.
and other games like it. I don't. They did not cast Zach well.
No,
Zach is way too.
his
whiny.
voice is so different in the PSP one to this.
Yeah,
one.
I'm gonna have to watch
him and
some videos of
Sephiroth are the
PSP.
most noticeable. Like,
Yeah, Sephiroth's voice, like it was okay. It wasn't nearly as bad as Zach's voice was. Though.
yeah, it was like polar opposite of how Zach.
No kidding. I'm gonna have to go
sounded
back
in
and
the-
check the PSP one out. But like just
He just
listen to it,
sounds
like
he sounds really
he
young
sounds
in the
very,
original
very
one.
young. I told you he reminded me a lot of the guy who does the voice for Sonic the Hedgehog in the
Oh
movie.
yeah, he does in the
Like
remake.
like
Yeah, he does.
a lot. It's just because it's just like, and maybe that was the direction
Vocal
that they were going
direction.
for.
Yeah, I'm not
I don't
sure.
know, but yeah, he sounded a lot like Ben Schwartz to me. And then there was those times, like I said, where it's like he read a line out, but it sounded like he was like, I swear the line was something like, "I guess that is all of them," and it's like, instead of being like, "I guess that's all of them," like, I mean,
Yeah.
they
Uh,
could have just, it was like, good enough rap, let's go.
Yeah.
There
But
was
I
there was a
mean,
lot of that, but
I
for
do
what
feel
it
like
didn't take away
maybe
from the game, in my opinion.
I do feel like maybe they did like not care all that much because at the same
I think so.
like they literally reused and just upscaled all the PSP cutscenes
Which are,
too.
so I was gonna ask, because you played the PSP and you saw me playing it on this one here.
Yeah.
Do you know, is there any difference between
No,
the two
none
versions?
whatsoever from what
It's
I
literally
understood.
the same game, just
Yeah,
upscaled.
but they
Okay.
complete no like so like the non cutscene stuff they redid. They redid
Sure,
all of it.
sure. But
But the
gameplay, like, everything's the same. Like,
story,
it's the game that I
gameplay,
played
all this
is the
is
game
this.
that you
Yeah,
played.
exactly. They just
Okay.
rebuilt it, kind of like did you play like Spyro Reignited or whatever?
I didn't. I was gonna ask though if it was kind of like the what they did with Xenoblade Chronicles 1 from the
Xenoblade
Wii
Chronicles
to
One, they
the
changed like
quite a bit.
they improved quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but Spyro, it would be more like Spyro where it's like the same fucking game, but they
Yeah.
rebuilt it all graphically from
Right.
like
So
the
they
ground up.
cleaned up all the graphics, the backgrounds and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. It was shorter than I thought it was going to be. I was going in expecting like 30 to 40 hours, and I think my completion time with a lot, and I mean a lot of like screwing around, was 22 hours, I
Yeah, I was gonna
think.
say I think it's about 20 hours the game.
I think if I went back through and did it again, I could probably get sub 20 pretty easily.
Oh
Because I
yeah,
did
a
I did a
replay for
lot of
sure.
wandering around. I did a whole lot of wandering around. Um, but yeah, there wasn't a single time where I was like, this is dumb, right? I don't think I hit a single point where I didn't know what to do. The story was engaging the entire time. There was a
Yeah,
lot of really dumb stuff. The second thing I didn't like about the game, the voiceovers was one. The second, Genesis could have been cut out of it completely.
yeah,
I just, the whole, every time I saw Genesis, I was like, no, like, don't
yeah.
do
I
this.
felt the
Why are
same.
you
I do
doing
not like
this?
Genesis at
Yeah,
all.
and it didn't make any sense that to tack Genesis in,
I think they
because
wanted a Sephiroth
they
but they couldn't
did.
put Sephiroth in
They
that role,
And
right?
that's exactly it. But the problem is that it doesn't make sense, because he plays such a pivotal role in Zack's story in this game that Cloud should have known about Genesis. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
because with
If he
their
knows everything else, he should have known. Yeah,
with their memories and everything being merged, then in Final Fantasy VII he should have known about Genesis, and he should have known all of these things, and the Genesis was behind all of this other
yeah,
stuff. It's like, I get it, and I don't think you're supposed to think about it that deep. I think you're
yeah.
supposed to just be like, yeah, it's
I
for
think
gameplay purposes. But
I think you could have had what was the doctor that started with an H?
Hollander,
I think you could have had the Hollander thing without having
yeah,
Genesis. I
yeah,
think
I
it would have
like
been better.
the concept that there is a Hojo and a Hollander, and they're kind of the same, but in two different schools.
But going a
The way that
different route.
Angeal and Sephiroth were, right?
Yeah.
Like they're the same but different.
I
And
think what
the
would have
fact,
been cooler, honestly,
yeah,
is if it would have pulled like a Metal Gear Solid 3 where instead of you didn't need Genesis because Genesis the only reason they like made up Genesis was so you could have a Sephiroth style boss
yeah,
fight.
you needed an
I
antagonist.
think what they could have done because you kept having the soldiers going AWOL, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And there's a good part of the game where you're looking for Angeal, who's like
yep,
your mentor. I think
yeah.
it would have been real cool if Angeal was in that role.
I
Then they
agree.
easily could have done that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't. Or at the bare minimum, merged, because they could have had the three first class soldiers as Genesis, Angeal, and Sephiroth, but then merge Angeal and make the positive side Angeal, the negative side Genesis, which is what they did, but put them in the same person, right?
Right. Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that was kind of the concept that they were going for. You had a right wing and a left wing. You had a black wing and a white wing kind of
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
right? And so like that way you would have had your mentor that went in and disappeared. You could have learned that Genesis disappeared as well. Hollander's behind these crazy experiments. He stuck them in tubes the way that you get stuck in a tube at the end of the game by Hojo,
Yeah.
right? They're being injected by these like showered with Mako, the way that, like all of these things could have been created to not make Genesis such a center pillar of the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because every time Genesis showed up, he felt so shoehorned in. Like they were like,
Yes.
okay, we need to have a fight here. Genesis will fly in from the skies and
Yeah.
fight you here. Like it didn't fit. But and the thing is that's kind of what they ended up doing with remake too. It was similar with the story ghosts that came in. It's like
Right.
they don't need to exist here. There's better ways to write this,
Yeah.
but it's like the shortcut path to getting to where they want. Like as if they had it up on the wall and they're like, how do we get from this board to this board? I know, let's create Genesis. They'll just zip straight across here instead of
Yeah.
creating
Yeah.
these 6 scenes to get here. We'll do it in one.
Yeah.
And yeah, it feels cheap,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It takes away the experience a little bit. Minor criticisms in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people are like,
Overall.
oh, Genesis, that was ruined the game for me, I can't
Yeah.
play it anymore.
Yeah, we can
I
acknowledge
disagree.
Genesis sucked, but the
Yeah.
game overall was
Yeah,
really,
the
really
game
well done.
the game on the whole is definitely worth your time, and I got it for cheap. I want to say I only spent like $11 on it or
Yeah,
something like that.
it was on sale
super
too,
cheap.
like just
Yeah,
recently.
that's
so.
that's because you sent me a message. You were like, "Hey, FYI, the Crisis Core is on sale," and I was like, "What, really?" And so I went and picked it up.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I did. So that now sits in between, and I'm jumping over into Rebirth next, knowing full well what I'm getting myself into. But I when I got my PS5, I went on my local buy and sell, and somebody was selling a bunch of PS5 games. I ended up getting Astrobot and Rebirth for $60 total.
Oh,
So
nice.
$30 a piece. So I
Yeah,
mean
that's
that's
really good.
worth it. I think the game's worth it at $30. It's not at 90 in my opinion, but
Yeah.
I haven't actually played it yet. I only know about it.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Buckle up, Buckaroo. Is
Yeah,
all
I've
I'll
heard-
say.
I've heard-
Right
I've
from
heard that it's,
the opening
yeah.
cutscene. I'm pretty sure it's.
I'm hoping that those nostalgic vibes, like that's how it felt for when I was playing Remake, right? Like when Cloud runs up and looks up at the reactor and that soundtrack's playing, and you meet Wedge and Biggs and Jesse and you're doing the reactor mission. It's just nonstop, like just feel good nostalgia vibes.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm hoping that happens in this game and outweighs all of the stuff where I'm like, come on, like those moments,
Yeah.
because I know those are coming.
The-
And maybe since I know those are coming, they won't be as bad as
Maybe.
it would be if I was going in like, yes, they finally did Final Fantasy VII remake. It's gonna be great.
I feel like with Rebirth, like I haven't experienced the whole game, but I've experienced a good chunk of it. I watched
Enough.
Soldiers
You've
play
experienced
through,
enough of it,
like
right?
like a good chunk of Soldiers playthrough, and I feel like and this is where I want you to go in knowing is that almost every moment. Okay, so let's rewind a little bit. Some of the best things in Crisis Core are when you are experiencing an area or something familiar, right?
When you walk into Nibelheim for the first time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or even right at the beginning. Dude, the opening cutscene to Crisis Core when he's
Yeah.
like he's on the fucking train and it's like
Yeah.
like it's just like it's
was
fucking
great.
popping off, right?
Yeah.
So that feeling you get whenever that happens in Crisis Core is great, right? I'm not even a big Final Fantasy VII fan, and like
And
that
it
they
feels
do
good.
those so
They did
well
really,
in Crisis
really
Core.
well. Yeah. Yeah.
So that positive feeling of like getting that in Crisis
Yeah.
Core, they ruin almost every one of those moments in
no.
Rebirth.
That's terrible.
Almost
And they didn't-
everyone
they
that I've
didn't in
seen.
Remake. Yeah, they didn't in remake, so that's disappointing to hear. So
Yeah.
I'll give you. I mean, you'll have to tune in and see kind of as I'm going through whether or not I actually complete it, because that's the other thing. If it's not good, I'm just gonna pull the plug. And
They
it is
dip.
what it is.
They just dip
But-
their fingers in when they don't need to dip their fingers in, and it's
that's- it's
every
unfortunate.
fucking time.
Yeah, it's super unfortunate because, and that was my gripe with remake, and it'll continue to be my gripe with Rebirth. The game was good as it was, right?
Yeah.
It's like George Lucas going back and changing Star
But
Wars.
way
Don't change
worse,
it.
really.
Well, I know, but
Way.
like just the concept of it, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you as the creator of this game can constantly sit here and think about how all the things you could have done better, but people loved it for what it was.
Yeah.
People didn't love it for what you wished it could be,
Yeah.
right? And if you wanted to change it so bad, all that they had to do, they had to not say that it was the remake.
Yeah.
They
Don't
could have
pull a
called
bait
it
and
Final
switch.
Fantasy VII and simply just say it's in a new creative direction.
Yeah.
This is the what if, right? I
Yeah.
don't know if you follow a lot of Marvel stuff, but Marvel's got a series called What If.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's what if Captain America
And it's
wasn't
cool. That's
Captain
part of the
America. It's
selling
really good.
feature.
Dude, for real, because the whole time you're watching it, you're like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm on board with this. I like this creative. That's all they had to do with this. That's it. That's the only thing they had to do.
Yep.
They simply just had to say, this is the Final Fantasy VII what if.
Alternate timeline. Yeah.
Totally. And people would have just like lapped it like
Dude.
the whole time.
Speaking of this is completely almost on to off topic.
Sure.
So there's a new Gundam series called Gundam. It's called like GQs or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And like they revealed some of like what the early, like a couple weeks ago, they revealed some of like the early mobile suit designs, and everyone was like, these look weird. And then they did a screening of I think the first 2 or 3 episodes in Japan in a theater,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
a lot of people fucking like recorded it and put it online. It's a fucking alternate timeline of Mobile Suit Gundam, but Char succeeds at the beginning in stealing the Gundam.
No.
And it looks so I went from like not giving any fucks about this series
to like
to seeing this footage and being and like, dude, there's a guy on Facebook took the scene where Amuro's running towards where like the Gundam's on like that kind of truck thing, and he gets in the cockpit and then it stands up, and then the first fight scene, they put the footage of Amuro doing it and the footage of Char doing it in the new series, and it's like verbatim. He gets in the cockpit, and then instead of killing the Zaku's, he kills a GM.
Oh.
And it's like this
Yeah,
I'm so fucking in now.
in. It sounds
Dude.
like we need to do a watch party of this.
Dude,
I'm in.
I know.
100%.
I'm so stoked.
Yeah, I'm in. That sounds fantastic.
I went from zero interest at all because I'm so behind in Gundam now, right? And it's like, whatever, I'll catch up when I catch up.
You kind of eventually give up. You throw in the towel. You're like, whatever.
But
One
like
day.
that could have been what they could have had this excitement we're having right
They
now.
could have. 100%. It's
Instead of pulling the bait and switch.
Especially on this podcast, we've always said anytime we've ever talked about it, we're not mad that they changed the game. We're mad that they told us we're mad that they didn't tell us they were, right? They had propped it up as we're going to remake Final Fantasy VII. The one thing that gamers have been asking for since 1997, well, let's say 2000, when the PS2 released, right? Since the PS2 released, people have been like, please give us Final Fantasy VII with updated graphics.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all we want. Just give us the game that we loved on the PS1 in the existing hardware. And Sony did it every single time. PS2, PS3, PS4, and then PS4, PS5. That's where we're at now.
Yeah.
Right? They did a tech demo. Like, here's what it would look
Yes.
like if we redid the intro to the game with Aerith praying in the center of the town square. Right?
Yeah.
And so they made it seem like
That's what
they
you
were
were-
going to do they were going to remake the game, not
They even called it
remake.
remake, bro.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just like all they would have had to do is
Greasy.
identify like this is a what if game,
Yeah. Alternate timeline.
and then they could change anything they want.
And people would
It could be
be
as
buckled
creative,
up
people
and
would have been all
excited
in
to
on
see it.
100%.
And then they
But
wouldn't
I
have
think-
had to do stupid time ghosts to explain it either, right?
And that's exactly
Yeah.
it. They can eliminate.
You
all
can
of the
change
crap that they
things
have to
and
just
not
throw-
have
yeah.
to do that.
100%.
Yeah.
That's all. And so I mean, I don't think I'll ever forgive Square Enix for doing
Yeah.
that. And going forward, I think every single game franchise that Square Enix is in control of, all the people begging for a Chrono Trigger remake, I don't think you know what you're asking for.
No, people are hesitant now. I
Right?
mean, unless you're getting a pixel remaster, which is what that's all people want now.
And
And
that's
that's
just
not
it.
what people
Yep.
wanted before Final Fantasy
Leave
VII
the game
Remake came
alone,
out.
just remaster it. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is ultimately that's what they've done is like I think all these people clamoring for a brand new versions of their games
Are scared.
they're
They
scared.
don't trust
and
them.
and you should be because the next thing you know, freaking Chrono's gonna be like, guess what, guys? We're gonna do this without a time machine. Like,
Yeah.
Instead of a time machine, ghosts are going to come down and take care of Lavos. There we go. Game
Yeah.
over. Now let's do 60 hours of farming.
Yeah. My biggest thing that I don't want you to play Rebirth, to be completely honest. There's one character in that game that isn't even that character at all, but is basically just wearing a skin of that character. Because personality-wise, speaking-wise, it is not that character at all. Other than he looks exactly like that character and has that character's name.
Yeah, it's Sid. I know it's Sid.
Oh, okay.
That's okay.
He's like, hey guys, how can I help you out?
I know. I've seen a couple people have linked me clips. Well, it's because
and he's the best character in the fucking game.
Sid is super good. The problem is that Sid is a problematic character now, right? He's a rough talking mechanic with a cigarette and.
Dude, could you imagine how good that could have been though? Like Sheila brings in a coffee, he puts he puts his cigarette out in the ashtray, slaps her on the ass, and
throws the cup onto the ground. He's like, "You forgot to put cream in it. Do it again."
Yeah, but then his redemption. You know what I mean? Like,
well, that's what I mean. Like, that's why you can't change. That's why you can't change this stuff. Yeah, because it weakens everything else. So I know what I'm getting into. To a degree, and it is what it is. Like I said, I wouldn't have bought it at full price, but at $30 it's pretty hard to pass up on that. If I only play it for a little bit, then so be it. But I am looking forward to those moments. I want to go into Costa del Sol. I want to see Mount Nibel. I want to see the Gold Saucer. I want to know if they remade the track Interrupted by Fireworks, and if that entire scenario plays out the way that it did in the game, right? Like all of those different components, those are the areas that I look at in the game. They're going to change the stuff. It is what it is, right? Yeah. They're going to do the freaking time ghosts and the story stuff, and it sucks. But I'm hoping that the nostalgia components outweigh it. And if it doesn't, then it is what it is. I'm still going to make a video about how disappointed I was.
Yeah. I will say they did Junon and Costa del Sol really well.
Good. Yeah. And those are really awesome areas, right? Like, I mean, I'm expecting a ton of filler and mini games all along the way in there too.
Yeah. There's too many mini games in it, but
because like they said that as part of like, oh, introducing all these mini games. It's like, I don't want mini games. I want my game. Give me my game.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's enough ranting. I'm old manning at this point.
Yeah. But Crisis Core, really well done. Great game.
It is
one of the best prequels of like ever, I think. Like, I'm trying to think of like other prequels that are really fucking good.
Dirge of Cerberus. No, I was kidding.
Oh my god. Dirge of Cerberus is a sequel technically.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. But so in remake, you go to at the end of Crisis Core, they have those two guys pick up Genesis, right?
Yep.
So if I remember correctly, those two guys are working for Whis. Yeah. And you end up in Whis' lab underground in Remake, right?
Yeah.
You don't fight Whis in Remake though, right?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay.
At least I don't remember fighting Whis.
Whis was like the only thing I liked about Dirge of Cerberus. Like, he was pretty fucking cool, but I would not recommend anyone play Dirge of Cerberus to any degree. But he was kind of cool. I think one positive that they could do with like the third remake trilogy game is have Whis show up in there, because as much as I hate remake and rebirth and all that stuff, they are way better than Dirge of Cerberus.
Oh yeah. Like I quickly looked it up here. So Whis is in the combat simulator.
Oh,
so
okay.
They kind of reference to it. There's that stupid Chadley guy who's super annoying, but they make a digital copy of him, and you can fight him in the combat simulator.
Oh,
that's the one thing that's in there. There's like a secret boss in there, essentially. So.
Dude, I liked in Crisis Core how you'd fight like all the summons and stuff too.
That was really good.
Yeah,
all of
with
that
Hojo,
stuff was fun. Even the side missions and stuff. Now the side missions there was only like 4 maps or something that got
Yeah,
old really
that
fast.
was, but it was a PSP game too.
Limitations of the
Yeah.
time, I get it, right? So I'm willing to put that off to the side.
Hmm.
I thought it was super cool that when the way that I loved the DMW. I don't know, maybe people don't like it very
Yeah,
much, but
some people
I
don't, but I
really,
really liked
really
it.
liked it. The reason why I liked it, it was one less thing for me to have to remember. Anytime that those,
Yeah,
you don't even look at it, you just let it do its thing, and then anytime that those wheels lined up, you hit triangle or you hit the two
and it always
sticks.
felt good.
It always felt good every
Yeah.
single time. And so you unlock the summons by fighting them, and it basically plops them onto the DMW, and away you go. It was a really cool system. It felt great.
Yeah.
It got really old hearing combat engage or beginning combat
Phase or
operations
something. Yeah,
or something
yeah.
like that, right? And start and end
Yeah, they
every
didn't have to
single
put
time
that in there.
didn't need to be in
No.
there. That could have got cut out, right? So, but I mean, those are minor things in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah.
The game at its core was a lot of fun,
At its crisis core.
and I'll probably end up playing it again because it gives you a new game plus when you beat the game. I'll probably end up whipping through it again because I wouldn't mind finishing. I didn't finish all the missions. I
Oh,
wouldn't
yeah.
mind completing them all.
Yeah,
just
it's
to
a good
say I got
fucking
it
game,
done.
dude.
It's
And
good. I enjoyed it.
I think, like I said, kind of near the beginning of our conversation here on this game, is to me it takes out all the things I didn't like about Final Fantasy VII. Like, it streamlined the shit out of kind of all the tedious stuff in Final
Yeah.
Fantasy VII, and
Yeah.
like that's why I think the DMW works so well because you're not having to like, I don't know,
You don't have to know materia combinations.
yeah, you don't have
In
to
order
like
to kind of make yourself the best.
refuculate all your materia every single time, and like, yeah, it just felt good. Casting spells, I hate using magic in games. Casting spells felt like just an attack
good.
in the
Yeah.
game. Like, it was good.
Yep.
You never
Yeah,
were really low on MP either, right? So
No,
it was like, it was good. It was really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Lots of fun.
And now, let's swing into the old main event Reno.
I almost said the Game Gear.
The Game Gear. We'll do the Game Gear next.
The Game Gear does not need to be. I will have to bundle it up with something else.
The
too.
Virtual Boy.
Yeah, because-
But the Game Boy, and we're gonna pool the Game Boy Color in here because they're
It's the same
essentially
system,
the Game Boy
basically.
Color is essentially the Game Boy Pro. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Really.
it's. I don't even know if I would call it different. Like, I mean, like, I know that it literally.
There's
had
some
color
games that you can't
that were
play
Game
on
Boy
both.
Color specific.
Yeah,
but I mean,
but
to be
overall.
perfectly honest with you, they're basically the same.
Yeah.
I did like the color size, the size of the.
Oh
system.
yeah, the color
Like,
was
they took the Game Boy
way
the Game
better
Boy Pocket,
looking,
right? Like
yeah.
the Game Boy Pocket and the Game Boy Color were about the same size, were
Yeah.
they not?
Yeah, the big brick, the big
Yeah,
fucking.
I had the
gray
big brick. That's the one that I had. The one that takes 4 AA's.
I did not. So I still don't own, and I want to get one. I still do not own a Game Boy or a Game
No
Boy
kidding.
Color. No, most of
Interesting.
my Game Boy Color stuff was played on a Game Boy Advance.
That makes sense.
Or SP.
It was just sucky
even.
to have the big
Sticking up
things
the back,
sticking out the bottom.
Yeah, it looks stupid. But the whatchamacallit? Oh, so like the Game Boy, my first experience with the original Game Boy, I don't even know who this kid was, but I remember I was like friends with a kid. I think it was Gavin. He lived in like our hometown for a little bit.
Gavin.
Yeah, his dad
Gavin.
was the principal of the high school. And I went to the lake with them one summer, and they had a Game Boy. And so the drive up to the lake, we would take turns playing Super Mario Land on the Game Boy in the back seat of his truck.
Awesome game. Great great
Dude,
tune.
I don't even like Mario. It's like one of my favorite Mario games.
Do 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 do.
Yeah, Super Mario Land's so good.
Very good.
Very different, but very good.
Very different. Yeah.
And that was my first experience with it, and I was like, this is pretty sweet. Like, cause like the only handhelds I had at that time was like Tiger Electronics, Aladdin.
Oh, like
Yeah.
like those handhelds that weren't video game handhelds. They were like bloop, 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 bloop,
Yeah.
bloop, bloop, bloop.
So to have like
Game
an
and Watch.
actual game,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Like I was
yeah.
playing Mario, like, you know
Sure.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of people played Tetris, which is fine. I'm not a puzzle guy,
That was me.
but I was playing Mario in the truck. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's
Love it.
Nowadays, that's nothing, right?
Yeah,
but
that bar was like set real high.
yeah. It was like, and then I remember, was it your brother had one of the Turtles games,
Yep.
and that was like
Yeah,
fucking Turtles on
Jason had a ton.
handheld. Come
Yeah,
on,
Jason had a ton of Game Boy. So Jason always, my older brother bought all of the
Follow the
video
Foot
game
Clan, I think it
consoles.
was called.
Follow the Foot Clan, yeah. I didn't get my Game Boy until Pokemon Blue came out.
Okay,
When Pokemon Blue, well, Pokemon Red and Blue.
yeah,
I had Pokemon Blue,
yeah, same.
but
That's the one I
when
played.
Pokemon Red and Blue released, a friend of mine had a Game Boy, was not interested in Pokemon, was looking to sell it, sold to me for $20. And I was
Damn.
like, sold, and I bought it. The reason why it's $20 is because the door on the back of it was broken,
Oh,
and
okay. So
so
your batteries were like flashing everybody.
well, almost. I had the panel, but it wouldn't stay on, so I
Oh,
hockey taped that on.
oh yeah, very Canadian thing.
Yeah, so it was. I always had to replace the hockey tape because I'd have long sessions of Pokemon. It would get all gross and like
Oh
it
yeah,
would start
because
rolling
hockey
down.
tape
Yeah,
gets like gooey.
it was gross.
Yes, I forgot
So
about that.
anyway, and so I had two games. I had Tetris and Pokemon Blue, and then I eventually had Pokemon Yellow. I ended up buying Pokemon Yellow when the Pokemon anime came out and they released Yellow. I was like, oh, I can't wait to play the anime in video game mode.
Yeah,
And then it turned out it was just the Pokemon Blue, but
but you got all the starters, man. Yellow
yeah,
was
you
good.
did. It was so much harder though. It was so because to beat Brock with
Oh
Pikachu
yeah, with
is
Pikachu
very,
or
very
that
difficult.
early in the game. Yeah, that's
It's a
true.
lot of
That's true.
trouble. But I have so many fond memories of the Game Boy. I even now because the Game Boy Virtual's on the Switch, I still play Tetris on the stupid Switch.
Really?
Man. Like I was one of those. Like I know you said that you didn't do Tetris a whole lot. I could not get enough Tetris.
Really? I
I
mean, you and
played
almost everybody
so
else,
much
really.
Tetris. It was ridiculous. And even now, like when I'm playing it, people are like, "Oh, you're actually pretty good at this." I'm like, "No, I'm not." Like if you see someone who's good at playing Tetris, I look like I've never played the game in my life before, right?
Yeah.
But
You
it's
just
it's
see me
just
play
it's always
Tetris.
been, it's always been one of those games that I liked on road trips because I could get from where we lived, from our hometown to the city we were driving on one game. I play the same game from when we left the house to where we go. I had it almost down to a science. I would
Right.
start it when we crossed the train tracks, and by the time I would not be able to complete any more lines, we would be stopping where it is we're
Oh,
getting to.
nice. Yeah.
It was perfect every single time, right? Because when you get that high in levels, they're going track, black, black, blam, blam,
Yeah.
right? It's like it's insane. So, yeah, I loved the Game Boy, and I liked the really big one too. And like I said, I never had the Pocket, but our friend Chad, he and his brother also had all of those Game Boys. They had the Pocket and the Color and all of those things too. And I remember holding the Pocket and being like, "This is super comfortable," and it
Yeah,
was
the pocket
light.
was nice.
It was super light too,
Yeah.
and yeah, I did like that and the Color. But by the time I had enough money to buy the Color, the Game Boy Advance released, and so instead of getting the
Mhm.
Color, I just went straight for the Advance because it was backwards compatible. That's two systems we're talking about backwards compatibility today, and
Yeah.
I gotta say, more systems need to take pages
Oh,
out of
it's
the
the
old
best.
ones. So good, so
It's the
good.
best because here's the thing: if you didn't, and this is my case, I didn't have a Game Boy or a Game Boy Color.
Yep.
I bought a Game Boy Advance, and now I have 3 consoles
Now
worth
you're
of
good to go.
games, right?
Mhm.
And I remember, like, I think that's why the PS2 was so big because as much as I shit on the N64, there's a lot of people that bought N64 and some people
Oh,
that
yeah.
bought like the Saturn and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I know the PS1 outsold them all like big time,
Oh yeah.
but pretty much nobody bought a GameCube,
No.
and pretty much only the rich people bought a Dreamcast.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean?
Or
And-
the absolute hardcore Sega fans.
yeah,
right?
yeah. And so when the PS2 came out, people who had a PS1 and people who had an N64 all bought the PS2, and one of
That's
the
right.
biggest selling points for those guys that had an N64 was now I have the entire library of, in my opinion, the greatest
PlayStation.
fucking console of all time,
Yep.
the PS1.
Yeah, you have the ability to play all of those games, and they carried that through all the way into the PS3, and they dropped it. They shouldn't
Yeah,
have
they dropped it like
stupid.
midway through the PS3.
Midway through the PS3.
Yeah,
Yeah, which is
which is
dumb. They
stupid.
made it well. They made it exclusive for the one version of the console, so they could sell more of their Pro version or whatever it was. Right?
No, it was the early versions had it. and it was
Right.
only like
No, the early versions had a hardware, which was the best,
yeah
but they eventually changed it into a software backwards
emulation.
compatibility. But remember, they had like a 60 gig version, a 20 gig version,
It was the 80
but
that could do it.
or the 80, it was the 80
Yeah,
gig and the 20 gig or something
yeah,
like that. And the larger one had the backwards compatibility, and the
yeah. I
smaller
think
one
that's
did
how it
not.
was because I remember I bought an 80 because
It
of
was
that.
so dumb. It
Yeah,
was just the dumb, like dumb. But as far as it goes for the Game Boy, there was so many awesome games on
yeah.
there that I always would play when we'd go to like Walmart or something. And do you remember like the cabinets? Did you ever see those with the Game Boys on display?
Not
And
the
they had
Game
that
Boy
like,
ones. I remember playing like
oh
Super
man,
Nintendo games and stuff in
yeah,
that,
it would
and
have
like
been like the same kind of idea,
dude, remember when
but
this is out of nowhere? Remember when McDonald's had those N64s and you'd
yeah,
play
I
like Wave
do.
Race on these sticky
Yeah.
ass N64
Oh
controllers?
yeah, yeah, they're all greased up from the
Yeah,
fries and stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, they had taken the play place out and took all the slides and the activity stuff away for video games.
yeah. That was the best.
I didn't play. There was always like there at the store they would swap those games out. And so you'd go in and every now and then there'd be a new game for you to play and try out. And maybe it was Radio Shack that I was doing this in instead of Walmart. It might have been. I can't remember, but I do remember that is why Jason ended up buying Fall of the Foot Clan because it was the game that was on display
Oh,
there, and he was like, "This is a lot of fun," and bought it. It actually wasn't that much fun, by the way. It was really hard.
and it's
It
like
wasn't as
super.
hard as
It's
NES, but it
it's
was really
super
hard.
like dull kind of. But I mean,
Yeah.
when we were kids, it was
Oh
awesome.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's
Different
like
story for
walk
sure.
walk slash walk walk
Yeah.
walk
Well, and the
slash.
worst part for the Game Boy is when you would slash, it always left that artifacting behind. So it was
Right.
hard for you sometimes to see when it's time to jump and when it's time to hit and
Yeah,
all that kind
yeah.
of stuff, right? But yeah, I don't know. I mean, you have the start of Pokemon on this system,
Yeah,
right?
which
Like the dawn
blew
of it.
up, man.
Was Dragon Quest Monsters also at this time?
Yes.
Or did that come after?
So Dragon Quest Monster, it was called Dragon Warrior Monsters because it was still
Super
called
RC
Dragon
Pro
Warrior
was
at
the other
that
one, by
time.
the way.
But Dragon Warrior Monsters, and to this day, to this
Mhm.
very day, there are fans, people that played Dragon Warrior Monsters games and Dragon Quest Monsters games that have never played a mainline Dragon Quest game.
No kidding.
Yeah, they're huge. There's a huge fan base of the Dragon Quest Monsters games that
Wow.
have never played a Dragon Quest. It's crazy, but that's what it is,
See.
and it
I
kind of makes
guess.
sense because it's its own thing, right? Like it's a
Yep.
monster taming game, and they're so good. So there's Dragon Warrior Monsters 1 and 2 are both on the Game Boy, and then
Okay.
they remade Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior 1 and 2 on the Game Boy, and then Dragon Warrior 3 on the Game Boy Color. And they were actually ports in a way of the Super Famicom remakes. So they were really good, well done. My only gripe with them is they were translated differently. So that's why like now there's like 4 different translations of like Dragon Quest 1 now.
Interesting. Okay, that
Because
makes sense.
yeah, but overall, I mean they were really really well done, especially like if I remember correctly, I don't know if it was 1 and 2 or if it was just 3, but they actually had like monster animations when they would attack and stuff instead of just the
Right.
picture on the screen. And yeah, no, they were really well done. They did a really good job. And it was crazy what they could fit. Like
Oh yeah.
think of like even Pokemon in and of itself. You
Yeah.
compare that to like Fall of the Foot Clan and fucking
Oh yeah,
Tetris.
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
It's amazing what they did with the space that they had.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, like, and I was just going to mention this too. Is this is also the creation of Saga, right?
Right.
Yeah,
And
what is it,
Secret
Final,
of Mana.
Final Fantasy Legend or whatever it was called, right?
Yeah.
And then Secret of Mana is also. Both games got Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
label,
because they didn't
didn't they?
have because Final Fantasy already had. I
They
don't
had a-
know
had
if
a-
Final. When would those have come out? I don't know if Final Fantasy 6 was out yet, or if Final Fantasy 4 was out. I don't think 7 was, but
So-
maybe it was.
Final Fantasy Legend is 1990.
Okay,
Um,
and when
I
was
don't-
Final Fantasy Adventure?
uh,
Because Final Fantasy Adventure was the first Mana series game, and it's really good.
1991.
Okay, so
So
they would have
Saga
been.
first, Mana next.
So they would have been like banking off like the Final Fantasy 1 and probably Mystic Quest probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like-
Which is, I mean, it's like, it's really cool to to see where we're at now, right? Like they're
Yeah.
still making Saga games,
Yeah.
right? They're still making like Visions of Mana is out for the PS5. That's another one that I want to pick up for the
Yeah, dude.
PS5.
That was the first, I think that was
Um,
the first PS5 game I bought, and I still haven't played it.
Someone fired it up yet.
No, but that was the one that
Is
I
it
was
two,
like, I
is that
need
one
to
two
get a
player?
PS5. No, dude. So
Ah,
here's the
damn
thing.
it.
So the creator was like, if this does well, we want to add a multiplayer, but they didn't want to put the time and money into it because it was like it cost. It was the biggest project
Loads of
that
money.
they had
Yeah,
done, right?
it makes sense.
And
Yeah.
they were like, we if this does really well, we will add. We want to add multiplayer.
I
And
hope they do. I'm planning on picking that up because of our playthrough of
Trials of
Seiken
Mana.
Densetsu 3.
Yeah,
It was very good. That game is still like I still think about that playthrough
it's so
that we went
fun,
through.
dude.
It was
It's
a
one of
lot
the
of fun.
best Super NES games.
Yeah,
I think.
that one was a ton of fun. So I do plan on picking up Visions. But I mean, just to think about like they got their start on the friggin' Game
Game
Boy
Boy.
of all
Yeah,
things, and that they've grown so much since then that they're creating like mainline titles that are
yeah.
very well received.
I mean, Saga's been around since, what did you say, 1990, and they finally have a good game this year.
That's right.
Last year.
Yeah, that's right.
They're like 20 entries deep.
Finally.
But no, it is pretty cool to see like something that seeds were planted on a handheld
That's right.
that could only do like Tetris and Fall of the Foot Clan and Mario Land at the
Yeah.
time. And like our minds were blown. Like I said, my mind was blown that I was playing Mario and Ninja
Absolutely.
Turtles on in the car.
Now, did you play Kirby's Dream Land?
Yeah,
then?
I did, but I played that on a. That's the other cool thing, and I didn't want to get into it till a little later, but the Super Game Boy was where I played a lot of fucking
okay.
Game Boy games.
Okay, like the cartridge that you put the Game Boy game into.
Yes,
Okay,
that's where
gotcha.
I played a lot of my Game Boy games, because it just like you could play it on your TV then, right?
Right.
And I had a friend that had one, and we would play Kirby's Dream Land, we would play Pokemon Yellow, we would play all kinds of stuff on that bad boy.
Was that the one that you got? Like your cousins were like, "We don't even use this anymore. Here, you can have it." Was that this, or was that
No,
something?
that
am
was
I
my
thinking of
Game
something
Gear.
else? It's like, we don't even like this thing anymore. Why don't you just take it? You're like, okay.
It's not that he didn't like it, it's that they had like a lot of money, right? So
Yeah.
he had a Genesis, and then he got like the
Sure.
32X, and he got like he was
Oh, so
always
yeah, like
he
there was
gave
all
me his
sorts of stuff.
32X
Yeah,
as
okay.
well, like yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's fantastic. Your cousin. I wish I had a cousin like you have a
Just
cousin. That would be-
fucking boatloads of money, and
love it.
was like, I'm not gonna. This is a
Absolutely.
baby's toy now, because he had like the
You gotta use
Saturn
your
then,
hands.
right? Like,
Right.
but
Uh,
no, dude, the Game Boy. My biggest experience with it was, so my buddy Paul, our friend Paul,
yeah.
he had a Game Boy, and he had a Game Boy Pocket. Now, was the Pocket purple? What color was the Pocket?
There was all kinds of colors for
Oh,
the pocket.
okay.
Yeah, there was a bunch of colors for the pocket.
Because he had the Pocket, and then I remember he had Pokemon Red, and then because you needed both or a friend with the other one in order to get all the Pokemon, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
he had Red, and I think he pretty much beat Red, and then they got a Game Boy Color. And if I remember correctly, he let me borrow for like a very, very long time the Pocket when they got the color, so that I could
Okay.
play through Blue and then trade him the Pokemon from Blue. So that's why, like,
okay.
I don't honestly know. If you ask me today, I don't know what monsters are exclusive to each one, because
Because you had them.
he gave like, I think it was like on the DS or the DSi or 3DS, they re-released Pokemon Red and Blue. And I got
Right.
Blue, and I was pissed off because I couldn't get Electabuzz, because Electabuzz is like one of my favorites. But
Right.
he gave me like Electabuzz right off the hop, right? Like he gave,
Right.
because
He's
he
like, "Here, take
already
this."
beat Red before I played Blue.
Right.
So I
right,
had
right.
Electabuzz. I had whoever else would have been an
Yeah,
exclusive.
the ones that you wanted to play as.
Yeah, and then
I
he
love it.
just said like, once you get this guy, just trade him to me, and then we're good, right? So
Right.
it was like, yeah, I had all of them. And then the same thing happened with Silver. So when Gold and Silver came out, and first of all, I want to say when Blue came out, it was like one of those where because it was a game where like your parents would say go to bed, and you'd turn the TV off and go to bed, and then
Right.
but I would go under the covers with like a fucking flashlight and play Pokemon Blue. Like I remember being up till like 3 a.m. playing Pokemon Blue before school and stuff,
Right.
like on a school night, because like the way that game is so segmented, like this to the gym badge, this to the gym badge. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
couldn't end until you got your next badge, and
That's
then
right,
even when
yeah.
you got that badge, you're like, now I want to see what this
Yeah, it's
new
like
area
I
can
could
do.
keep going a little bit more.
Yes, it was so addicting, right?
It was. Pokemon Blue grabbed me. So
Yes.
that was the one time that I can think of. I cannot think of another time that I did this, where I got a game that my older brother didn't get. I picked up Pokemon Blue and I was showing him Pokemon Blue and I was like, "Look at this game. This game is fantastic." And he was like, "This is great. I'm going to go get Pokemon Red." And then he went
No
and got Red.
way.
Yeah,
That's
I
awesome.
cannot think of another time. I'm pretty sure that's one of the only times that I ever was like, "You got to play this game. This is fantastic." Back then, just for everyone's amusement, let's say, I would play Pokemon on my Game Boy, and on my Discman, my CD player, I would be playing the Korn "Follow the Leader" album.
Oh yeah,
And
that
so
was a
I was
good
listening
album.
to freaking Korn while playing Pokemon. That was the young version of me back then when I was 13 years old or 12 years old or whatever. Just edgy.
Yeah.
Just so edgy.
Dude, so
Uh,
I had a video series that I tried to do and it failed miserably called Song and
Right.
Game, and
Okay.
I was basically that. Like I would do like a review of, because I used to play Zombies Ate My Neighbors and listen to Bare Naked Ladies' Stunt album
Okay.
on my CD player.
That's a combo.
Yeah, because
That's a combo.
that was like the time when like that shit was like affordable to have in your bedroom. Like it was
Yeah.
starting to get like you could have a Discman,
Oh,
or you
yeah.
could have yeah.
Yeah, that three-piece stereo with the speakers that you can move
Mine
away
was just
from
a
the head
fucking
unit.
boombox, like a like this big.
Oh, that's honestly even better, really.
It is, yeah. But yeah, that was, dude. Pokemon Blue and Red was a JRPG experience. My first JRPG experience since
So good.
Dragon Warrior 1 and 4.
Oh, yeah.
And it was
No.
like
It was very, very well done.
so good.
And it was super light for a JRPG, which was really nice, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, as a young kid, you pick up on it really quick. and
Yeah,
you
we were like
learn
the
kind of
perfect
specifics
age
of
for
it.
that to come out at that
100%.
time.
Yeah, we're definitely in that. I went and quickly looked at the colors for both the Game Boy Pocket and the Game Boy Color. So
Yeah.
the Game Boy Pocket was black, green, blue, red, yellow, and then there was a transparent one.
Okay.
And then Japan also had a pink, a clear purple, atomic purple, neon green, and an ice blue. Those were Japan, though.
Okay.
Those were exclusive to Japan.
Fuck, I can't remember which one I had. Like I remember
Then
Paul had a purple one, but that might have been the color.
The Game Boy Color came out in berry, grape, kiwi, dandelion, teal, which is red, purple, green, yellow, blue. And a little bit more information, the logo for Game Boy Color with the word color, COLOR.
Yeah, it's like handwritten, it looks like.
It is, but the colors in the word color match the colors of the Game Boys that they're released.
Oh,
So
that's
berry
cool.
was red, it was C. Grape was purple,
I
it was
didn't
O.
notice
Kiwi
that.
was green, it was L. Dandelion, yellow, the O. Teal, and R. They also afterwards released the Atomic Purple Game Boy Color here in America,
Oh,
in North
okay.
America. So then that was the first kick at Atomic Purple. From that point forward, from the Game Boy Color forward, Atomic Purple I think was offered for all systems in some way, like a throwback in a way,
Yeah.
right? The N64 had a controller that was Atomic Purple.
Yeah, I
right?
like that purple. The Game Boy Color,
I
the
like
purple
that.
Game
That
Boy
super
Color is just
purple.
what
It
I
was really
remember
cool.
most.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude. And then fucking to get my hands on Silver, like I'm so
Oh,
grateful
Gold and Silver was
to
so good.
Paul because I didn't own any of these games. Like
Right.
he would just lend them to me. I bought them
He's like,
years
"Here, you
later
borrow
when I
this."
got a Game Boy Advance. But it was literally like he would buy them because he wanted the other Pokemon, right? And
Sure.
and so I remember the same thing with Silver. I'd come home, I would play it in the evening, and Silver, dude, this is what sucked.
Silver's so good.
Silver's the best, but this is
So
what
good.
sucked with the Pokemon series from Silver on until Pokemon Moon was that it was always nighttime when I would play. So it was like
Right.
Hoot Hoot City, baby. Like it was
It was
like
all the nighttime stuff.
Yes.
You never thought to change the system time on your
No, I
Game
didn't
Boy?
know fucking how to do that. I was like fucking 10 years old, man.
That was one of the first things I did. I was
Really?
like, oh, I don't want these nighttime Pokemons. Go into the settings, change the time. There we go,
No,
daytime
I didn't know how
Pokemon.
to do that. So it was always nighttime up until blue, but or
Makes
until
sense.
moon. But yeah, dude,
Then you could
silver was
reverse it.
so good. And then going
So
back
good.
to Kanto to see like how it's been since the last
Yeah,
time you were
I,
there.
I would go so far to say that that's probably my favorite Pokemon series of all time.
Yeah, like Soul
Right,
Silver,
right.
like the remake of Silver
Yeah,
is the best
yeah.
one.
Silver was good, but Soul Silver they improved on it.
Yeah.
That is how you make a remake, Square Enix, in
Yeah,
case you're
by the way,
wondering.
yeah.
But it was incredibly well done, right? As far as it goes for a Pokemon game. But yeah, I gotta say, the Game Boy was great. Now I got more use out of my Game Boy Advance than I did out of my standard. By the time that I was coming into like actually buying games for myself or getting them for gifts and stuff, we were at the Game Boy Advance at that point. I had a small handful of games, but my older brother did have, in addition to the ones we talked about, Super RC Pro Am,
Oh, they had
Super
that on the
Mario.
Game Boy Color?
Yeah, Super RC Pro Am, dude. That was a lot of fun. He had Link's Awakening, The Legend of Zelda Link's
Oh, that was
Awakening.
a good one. Dude, Oracle of Seasons. That's like one of the
Uh,
few Zelda games
yeah.
I like, and I really like that game.
And what was it? I'm scrolling through a list here to see if I
Because they
can
did
quickly
Oracle
find
of
it.
Seasons and Oracle of Ages, and it was kind of the same thing. Like if you got an item from one and an item from
Yeah.
the other, then you'd get like an extra boss fight and like the true
Was
ending.
that Game Boy or Game Boy Advance?
That was
Was that
Game Boy
standard Game
Color,
Boy?
I believe.
Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I'm just yeah, I can't. I'm scrolling through. I'm not seeing the Game Boy camera also is on this list, and
Oh
that's funny. The
yeah,
Game Boy
I've
camera.
never actually seen it.
Terrible. It's
Dude,
terrible.
you know what was cool? Pokemon Pinball was another cool one.
Oh, that one was a lot of
And it
fun.
had like a rumble or something in it, or
the equivalent to Sonic Spinball.
yeah, but way better. Like Sonic
Way better.
Spinball's awful.
Dr. Mario. There it is. Yeah.
That
So
was
he also
another
had Dr.
popular
Mario
one.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Mario. It wasn't as good as the NES version of Dr. Mario though.
No.
I mean it was there, it just wasn't as good.
Yeah.
So
But it was
yeah.
just so incredible what they could put, especially on like the Game Boy and the Game Boy
Oh, yeah.
Color. Like it was.
Yeah.
I remember
it's
Battletoads on the Game Boy being really good. I remember liking it
Oh,
more
really?
than the NES one. Yeah.
I remember having played it on the NES and never wanting to play it on anything else
Yeah.
ever again.
I mean, it makes sense. Nobody
Until
would
I
blame
played the
you.
arcade version, I was like, "Oh, this is way better. Why
Dude,
didn't they
the
do
arcade
this?"
version's so fun.
But then you're like, "Oh, I get it. They couldn't put this on the console."
Yeah,
It's
oh,
just like
yeah.
it's not wasn't good for home use, but
It was always
yeah.
cool though, like, cause like I think from the Game Boy Advance on, you would get like where it would try to be the same game. So you'd have like Turtles, and then you'd have Turtles on the Game Boy Advance. And it was
Yeah.
just like a shitified version of the same
Yeah,
game.
I loved it.
But on the
Super Mario Land is the way that they needed. Like,
yes,
stuff like
where
that.
it's like it's its own thing.
It's its own game. They
Yeah.
made a game for it. They didn't make a port. They didn't dumb down the port. They made their own game.
Yeah, and sometimes it was better than the fucking NES one every now and then, right?
I
Like,
saw Kid Dracula on that list. That's another one you played, but like way after, of course.
yeah,
But
Kid
you actually
Dracula.
didn't mind that one too much.
Yeah, it's
did you?
good. That was a good one.
okay.
Super
For
fun.
Castlevania
I have
game.
it now. Yeah.
Mhm.
There's a lot of a lot of Game Boy games that I have now. Once I got my Game Boy Advance, I loaded up on a lot of Game
Oh
Boy
yeah.
games.
Oh yeah.
Mole Mania is another fun one. It's kind of a
Oh,
puzzle
Mole Mania.
game, but it's super fun.
Is that one kind of like Marble Madness sort of?
No,
where you,
it's
have to
like-
roll a ball.
So
or-
it's kind of like a puzzle game, like not like to the.
I don't think I ever
extent-
played it.
Not to the extent that Tetris is. I think you would like it. So you've got like an overworld from what I remember, and it's like a top view, kind of Zelda style, old school Zelda style, and you've got to like get certain things to push them down your hole. But then there's certain like it's like blocked off, so you go into the hole, and then there's like a whole other map underground, and you have to like match up and like I don't know. It was pretty fun
Interesting.
game. Yeah, I think
Cool.
you would like Mole Mania.
I'll have to check it out.
There's a lot of like Gundam games that I remember. Oh,
Yeah.
the best fucking Game Boy game of all time, Ninja Gaiden Shadow.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
that game is
Jason
so
had
good.
that one too.
That one is so good.
I remember he had that, and he was trying to tell me that it was better than Shinobi 2 on the Game Gear, and I was like, "No, you're wrong. Shinobi 2's the best."
It might be better though.
Shinobi 2 was really good.
Shinobi 2 is really good, dude. Is that the one where you rescue the ninjas
Yes,
and you
and
get
you
their...
get their ninja powers.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a lot of fun.
That one's good too. But Ninja Gaiden Shadow is like so fucking good. It's like one of the best Ninja Gaiden games, strangely enough. Like I'd play that over Ninja Gaiden 1 on
Also
the NES.
difficult.
Oh yeah, I mean, but that comes
But
with
you
the
know what?
territory.
You know what you're getting yourself into just by the title. I remember him playing it. I don't think he ever beat it, and I remember him being like, "Here, see if you can beat this level." Like just being like, "Go ahead, see if you can do it." And
Yeah.
I barely got past like the first bit. He was like, "You suck." Grab the game.
Yeah.
Brothers, right? Like,
Yeah. Dude, even like I remember I have the first Mega Man Game Boy game and it's fucking good.
for Game Boy.
Yeah, it's just called Mega
Okay.
Man and it's really good.
But it wasn't like the NES Mega Man.
It was basic. So basically, it was like the levels were completely different. But you had like Cutman and like Gutsman, I think, and then you had two guys.
Did you play this on stream?
I think a long
Game
time
Boy?
ago. Yeah,
I think I remember watching.
But
you play
then
it, I think.
they started. So they did that, and then they started doing their own thing. So Mega Man 4 and 5 on the Game Boy are actually like really fucking good games, better than
Okay.
Mega Man 4 and 5 on the NES, and they're kind of like their own thing. So Mega Man 4, there's a guy that like comes from the future or something. But anyways, it's really good. It's its own standalone story. And then Mega Man 5 on the Game Boy is like these alien robot masters come to Earth. And like there's like a
Okay.
fucking shoot 'em up level. Like they're really good. Mega Man 4 and 5
Cool.
on Game Boy are so good. Like I put them
I like
above
it.
some of the NES ones.
No kidding.
Yeah, they're
Wow.
really, really well done. And then there was Castlevania 1 and 2, Castlevania Adventure 1 and 2. One was good, the other sucked, and I can't remember which was which.
That's fair. I can't remember which. Can you?
Yeah, can you? Let us know in the comments. But yeah, let us know in the comments.
Let
What
us
are
know
some
in
of
the
your
comments.
first Game Boy and Game Boy Color games you ever
Yeah.
played? And what are
I'm
some of the
expecting
best? What are some of your
I'm expecting
favorites?
a lot of Pokemon. That's what got me into the game. I was not interested in the Game Boy until Pokemon rolled around.
Yeah,
That
it
is
makes
what
sense.
got me to get it because I don't even know how I don't remember. Did the anime come out before the game did?
I don't
in
think
North
so over
America?
here. I don't
Like,
think
I don't
I think it was
remember
close, but I don't
even.
because I remember playing the game before I watched the show, but I don't know if it's because I didn't know
Well,
the
and
show.
that's the thing.
or
yeah.
if-
I remember playing the game and knowing Pokemon while I'm watching the show, but I can't. That's such a long time ago. I can't
Yeah, it
remember
is.
how I even found out about Pokemon.
I
I don't even
Paul
know,
just
but-
had it. That's how I know.
I'm assuming somebody had it. It was probably Chad. Somebody had the game and probably showed it to me. I don't remember, but I do remember playing it and being like, I need a Game Boy for this. I need to
Yeah.
get this game.
I remember he had, so I think this is how I played Pokemon because he had, I think it was an X-Men game. It was like Rise of the Phoenix or something on the Game Boy, and
Okay.
it was so fucking shitty. And it was like, because there were a lot of like real shitty,
There's
like,
a lot of bad games.
because
on the-
remember there was Mortal Kombat 1 on the Game Boy,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
I remember playing that, and it was like, I was like, why are we fucking playing this? You've got a fucking NES, like let's
It's
play
so- it's
Nintendo
so
or
bad.
Genesis. And then I remember one day I came over to his house and he was playing Pokemon Blue or Pokemon, I think it would have been Red or whatever. And then I was like, oh, this is actually a good game. This
is good.
because all the Game Boy games he had were like shit, and I didn't
Yeah.
know why he was playing them. But that one was the one that was like, this is like
Yeah.
really good. And I didn't know
Oh,
what
yeah.
Pokemon was, and it was just something about it.
Yeah.
It was so good.
No, this is good. That was a system seller for me. But
100%.
yeah, tell us in the comments. I'd love to hear all about. Especially, there's a lot of Game Boy games. I have no
There's a
clue.
shitload of them, man.
So if you have a favorite and we haven't talked about it, tell us all about it in the comments.
Yeah,
We'd
tell
love
us
to
about why you got a Game Boy. Maybe it was just
Hmm.
your parents got it for you to shut you up during road trips. Maybe it was something that you saw a game and you knew you needed to get it.
Tell us if you had that awesome Game Boy Light or that contraption that goes
With
the
the fucking magnifier and
speaker,
the
the whole transformer thing, right?
Yeah.
You knew someone was hardcore. You knew someone was hardcore when they were like, I don't just play Game Boy.
It's like Megazord. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, for real. That's what it was like. Yeah, absolutely. No, we had those worm lights for
Yeah,
Game
that's
Boy
that's what I
Advances.
would use. Yeah,
Yeah.
you
And I
needed it.
remember my mom and dad always being like, "Turn that light on. Can't
Dude,
see where I'm
Dude,
driving."
no backlight though.
No
Definitely kind
backlight.
of sucked
That
because
was
like
yeah.
you were like your parents would be like watching TV and you'd have to like angle it with a light, like if you had like a
Just to
lamp.
get a reflection on there.
Yeah, you'd have
Yeah,
to try
not
and get
too
it
much
just
though, because it's
right.
got the glass front, and then you
Yeah,
just get the reflection of the light. No, you gotta get it just in the right spot.
yeah,
There's mods out there now that replace the screen with a backlit screen, and
yeah.
so I always look at those and I'm like, I wish I could have one of those, but I'm not nearly smart enough to do it myself, and I'm not nearly willing enough to spend the money it costs for
No
one.
doubt. Yeah, but yeah, one hell of a handheld. Really, the one that kicked off the
It
handheld
really
thing.
is. It was the definitive
Yeah.
handheld.
If not for that, we wouldn't have the Switch 2. If not for
Oh, for
that, we
sure.
wouldn't have fucking any handhelds, I think, because it was
Wouldn't
so
have had
successful.
the Wii U. This is
The
how you
Wii
get an
U,
amazing
fuck.
Wii.
Anyways, guys, thanks for watching and or listening. If you're listening on Spotify or wherever you're listening to this and you want to watch the video version, it's always on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Dookie03. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're driving and you're like, fuck, there's a YouTube ad, I don't want to die, listen to it on Spotify. It's a lot
Yeah.
safer, bud.
Yeah, don't take your eyes off the road, even though we are a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. But, and you can catch us live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Dookie03.
Twitch.tv/DG online. Also, both on YouTube. We stream on YouTube as well.
Yeah, we stream on YouTube as well now. DG's got another podcast with our boy Finney. Tell him a little bit about that.
Yeah, we do another podcast about tabletop RPGs called Masters of Pen and Paper. You can find that on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. But truth be told, the best way to find out about all of this kind of stuff is to join the Discord.
Yeah.
If you come into the Discord, you can come chat with us anytime that we're not streaming. And our community is fantastic. Everyone
The best.
in that place is the best. You got to come and hang out with us. Those links will be down in the comments.
Down in the
He always puts those
description.
links in there. You just simply go down there, click that link, bam.
Exactly.
You're in.
Description, though, not the comments.
Sorry, in the description. You can go into the comments. In the comments, type "Where is the Discord?" and
Yeah,
send you a
we'll
link.
hook you up. We'll hook you up. VIP. That's the VIP backstage.
Yeah, that's right. The 1v1.
Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
See you on the next one. Bye.